Okay, so before I go into the tutorial, I'm going to talk about vector images and illustrations. So the difference between a vector in this map file, or like photos, JPEG, PNG files, these are usually made up of pixels or bits. So you can see the difference between a vector and a raster file. So you can see it's made up of pixels, and then so the vector is usually made up of shapes and lines. So here's the difference. A vector you can convert back to a raster file, but a raster file you can't convert to a vector. You'd have to trace, and that's what we're going to do. So you can see the vector file names. We've been working with raster files, so JPEGs and PNGs. Again, the vectors are made up of various shapes, and they're scalable. So you can make a vector as big as you want and you won't lose the quality. So unlike the raster file that loses quality when you make it really big since it's made up of pixels. So vector images are actually really good for creating logos, typography, screen printing, or if you see those big billboards on the side of the highway, it's like if there's a logo on there, it's really nice if it's a vector because you can make it as big as you want. So you can again see the difference between a vector and a pixel. So raster files, what we've been working with, usually those are better for detailed images and photography or digital paintings, things like that. So what we're going to be doing is tracing a PNG or JPEG raster file into a vector file. So this is really what Illustrator is used for most of the time. So go ahead and go to Google Classroom, and I have this vector apple simple trace, and I have a picture attached. So go ahead and right click on this apple and save image as. I'm not going to save it because I already have it saved. And then so save it, on your desktop or wherever you can find it quick, and then switch over to Illustrator. So this is what we're going to be doing. I'll show you my layer is hidden. It started out like that and I just went around and traced it. So I'm going to go ahead and at the top go to File, New. It'll take a second because it's going slow for me right now. And we're just going to do a 5x7. So in here, 5x7, make sure it's in inches. It really doesn't matter on the orientation. It's up to you. So go ahead and do Apple Outline. We'll name it that. And then we'll click Create. Okay, so then my apple, I'm going to just click and drag this onto my board. It's way bigger. I'm going to make sure I'm on this selection tool here and hold down Shift. If you don't hold down Shift, you get this distortion, which we don't want. So hold down Shift as you grab from the corners and make it smaller. I still want it somewhat big so it fills the page though. Okay, so I have my apple on here, my raster PNG file. I'm going to now create a new layer. So your layers are over here, and go ahead and create a new layer. And I'm going to do this shape by shape just so it's easier. I can move around shapes if I mess something up and it's not just one layer. So I'm actually going to start with the stem. So you can name this layer stem. And I am going to go ahead and zoom in. So my Command plus on the Mac, probably Control plus on the PC. All right, so I'm going to switch to my pen tool now. And wherever you start is where you're going to end, especially since we are going to later down the road fill these in, not in this tutorial, but you want to make sure that these are closed off shapes. So wherever you start is where you're going to end. So I'm going to start right in this corner here. And so I click, and you have used this a little bit, and you are going to drag. So I'm going to click, and actually instead of letting go, I'm going to hold down on my mouse so that I can make this curve. Now mine is not going to be perfect because I'm trying to go fast. Okay, so it keeps the curve going and it kind of matches up, so I'm just going to leave that curve. But if you don't want this curve anymore after you've let go, you can click this anchor point and it goes away and it turns back into that straight line. So you can do that, and then I will click and hold down just to get that curve. Again, I don't want that. Oh, I forgot to tell you, sorry. Right over here, the stroke is going to be black, and actually I need to change this. My fill color, so if I hover over it, this is the fill. We're not gonna have a fill. So pick the box with the red line through it. Okay, so now we're good. All right, so I don't want this curve. I'll click the anchor point and I'll just go straight across and up And again, I'm not being perfect. Now for the leaf, if you want to do all these individual ridges, it'll look really nice, be my guest. But for now, I'm going quick just to get through this video. All right, so I'm going all the way around. And you can speed ahead just a little bit. I will talk a little bit when I'm done. Okay, so you can see I ended, and since I connected it to the starting point, I'm no longer connected to it. So that's how you, so I'll turn that off. That's how you connect it and create a shape. Okay, so now I'm gonna actually work on the body of the apple. So in my layers, I created another layer, and actually what I'm gonna do, it might be kind of confusing, but I'm gonna divide this apple into 3 sections. So this will be a section, this will be a section, and then the big part will also be a separate section, so I'll have 3 parts. You can do this if you'd like. Okay, so to start, I'm actually going to lock these 2 layers, and you can always lock something if you don't want it to move or switch to that layer. So make sure you lock those so they stay in place, and create a new layer, apple 1. And I am going to go ahead and zoom in just a little more, and I'm going to start here. So again, I'm just going to be doing this section in here, actually probably more like this. All right, so I'm going to start on the stem and just work my way around. So again, clicking and holding, and then make this kind of curved as well. And then this is actually going to follow, I'm going to make this overlap with this path here. So I'm going to click and hold down and just try my best to line that up. Okay, so there's my first section, and then I'm going to create a new layer and name this apple 2, and I will lock this layer, and this will be this section over here. So again, I will start here, work my way over, and since this overlaps, I am going to click and have that line follow that curve as best as I can. Okay, then and then there we go. So there is section 2. And then lastly, I will do the biggest part of the apple all around. So I'll do the same thing here and here. So you can see my example over here. If I turn my apple off and I move to it highlights the different sections. So here's the stem, here's part 1, 2, and 3. And I actually didn't divide it up here. So I might be making it harder for myself. Okay, so once you trace all the parts of your apple, go ahead and save this. So go ahead and just save it as an Illustrator file just in case you need to go back. But then after you save it as an Illustrator file, I want you to save it as a PDF. And this is what you are going to turn into Google Classroom. And so turn into Google Classroom, and then you can answer the project questions, and that is how you outline an apple.